my imagination that work was received, triaged, and dispatched. When in reality, work was captured and assigned. The time it takes to turn a unit has a lot to do with the first scoping. If the scoping is garbage, the unit turn is probably going to be garbage. We unintentionally reward a lot of bad behavior. Work orders is a great example. Yeah. How many duplicate work orders did it take to change light bulb?
So I had to take a ride with someone that came from Australia.
Yep.
There was a product person.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about their maintenance product. Right? And they got to talk about how some workflow. And I said to them, this is not how it works in real life.
Yeah.
And he meant to tell me like, no, this is how it works. So I said, how many years you have worked in property management? 0. How many years in maintenance? 0. How many properties have you visited? Like,
yeah.
And for how long? 0.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that you know better than me as an end user how things actually work, how the mechanics are?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have feedback and we have. No, you don't. You don't have any of that.
Yeah. I'll own having gone through some of that similar thinking in the past, and I do acknowledge that if you don't have
I'm very curious about this, right? And I want you to elaborate on it, and also the lesson learned what you changed, because most people will never go there, and I think that's a mistake, really.
Well, I will say that I was hitting exceptional levels of frustration for deals not closing.
Mm-hmm.
Deals coming into pipe, going through pipe, getting through the buyer, almost in the signature line, and then stalling out.
Okay.
And what I was doing over and over again wasn't changing the result, right? So it might have been talking to you, it might have just been luck. And then I started going on site and walking and following and seeing and observing and listening to what people were saying off the video call. And I learned way more. And I learned that I was just flat out wrong in how I assumed certain things worked. And so I would say that it's okay not to have the experience, because there's certain things that come from that. But it's not okay, because you just can't go rebuild your life and change what you did. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, you could hire people to.
Well, you can hire people.
Experience.
You can hire people too, right?
Yeah,
but it's not okay to not go on site. So there's a bunch of different ways to solve the problem, but it is inexcusable to not go on site and talk to your people, talk to your prospects. Because I tell you something, when you go on site, I was in last Labor Day, I was in Seattle. For some family stuff, and I had all this dead time. So what did I do? I just went to the store, I bought a bunch of donut holes, Dunkin', right? And just drove around to sites. I hadn't spent a lot of time in small multifamily. In Seattle, if you know that part of this, the country, it's tons of low rise. And I was like, okay, well, I'm really curious to see how low rise works, because I know I've got an idea how 300s and 200s work, but I want to know how these 47 units average per property kind of sites look like and how they work. So I just went, brought them donuts and walked around with them. And the things that they told me that I was able to see and observe, I didn't imagine that before. I didn't imagine the size and scope of some of these properties. There's they're tens of acres, right? And that has a different logistical challenge than a block and 300 units in a building.
Before we get going, give me 30 seconds. This episode is sponsored by Multifamily X, which is us, right? If anything you watch so far, I just stop and think, wow, this happens at my property. Maybe we should talk. If anything you watch so far made you stop and say, wait, this actually is happening at one of my properties, we should talk. Multifamily X is helping property management companies, finding what slows their operations down and helps them find better way to run. I'm curious if you could share some specific things that you learned.
Yeah, for sure.
That, like,
So here's a great example. Is that like the role of the maintenance technician, right? So it was my imagination that work was received, triaged, and dispatched. When in reality, work was captured and assigned. And the difference being that I had understood that it was going through a system where someone figures out what needs to be done, and then someone goes and does the work, or assigns to somebody the best person, and the work is done. Reality, what happens is something comes in, and it just goes round robin to people who are available, and they'll figure it out. And because there is no central spot to sit and figure out, should this be done, or how should it be done, or who should be done, or the other parts, all stuff. That spot doesn't exist. So if the technology that I was selling improves that job, but that job doesn't exist, I'm asking you to hire a person. Forget it. That's not going to happen, right? So that's my personal experience. So then when you think about it, okay, so then if work just comes in, is assigned, and assigned to somebody, and then just go do the work, well, how do I do that without having to introduce a whole new job? Because I would need to think about it based on the constraints of the site and how the site operates. So seek to improve the things that are already in place rather than seek to improve a problem that doesn't exist. That's my personal example. And then so now what we do with vendors is part of the reason why I attracted a vendor, or just an agentic approach to solving problems, is that, here's the other thing. Limited capacity to introduce new technology. We're a Yardi shop. Apologies to Yardi that we keep on using you as an example. It's just so easy. We're a Yardi shop, meaning we're not going to implement any other technology because we're a Yardi shop. Okay. So then that means I either got to invent something that works inside of Yardi, like an agent, with Yardi, like an agent or integration, or it's no deal. It's not going to get past anybody else. And so those examples of like the natural constraints of the site and the decision-making and change authority of the people that need to do the work, like those are just not ever going to change. And so rather than be frustrated by it, it's more important to say, that's just the rule, figure it out, and do better, you know? And so I think there's things like that. That's an example. Other examples are like, this is what I saw in real life. It's kind of interesting. Like, the time it takes to turn a unit has a lot to do with the first scoping. If the scoping is garbage, the unit turn is probably going to be garbage. And then the other one that I learned is that, like, these folks that are turning units, if they're doing two jobs at once, meaning they're in charge for reactive maintenance and turning units, both are going to be done poorly. Because, like, I literally saw this. Like, a guy was painting a wall, put the brush down, and went to go fix a toilet. And I was like, man, like, can I finish this for you? Like, I can't stand to watch a roller dry out in a pan. It drives me bananas. But, you know, and they don't do, like, you know, it's not a painter cleaning up. It's just, it's a guy who's trying to rush and solve something else and come back to the job. But inevitably, they go solve the toilet in 302, and then someone catches them about a squeaky hinge in 701, and they get back, and that dryer, just the paint's got the skim all over it, and the roller's hooped now. You can't use it anymore, and now you've half done the W on the wall, and you got to redo the whole wall again. Like, all those interruptions are accepted to be course of the business. So I don't know. The thing that I learned is that, like, if you've got a person who's committed to doing turns, they should not be interrupted to do anything else, because a turn is so important for that site. Because the second that turn is done, that unit is available for revenue capture. But if you're solving reactive maintenance with your turn people, you're making everybody do a bad job both ways.
What's the practical advice I don't disagree with you.
I think we should definitely be separating those roles. Of turns are like project work, and reactive is reactive work.
Yeah, but sometimes due to the size of the property and the budget, of course, you don't have the luxury, right?
Yep.
When you have a 200 unit property, you're gonna have a
Yep.
supervisor and a tech, typically service manager and a tech.
Yep.
And then they both gotta figure things out, and service managers gotta have to manage, do some hands-on work.
Yep.
Whether that's reactive or make ready, and then the tech has to do both, really.
Right.
So you don't, and plus they both gotta cover like the groundskeeper duties too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And do a walk and respond to emergencies and stuff.
Pick up, pick up the trash, clean up the pool.
I think it would come off as me being a bit arrogant to propose a solution, because I'd love to know what other people are doing. I do think there's something to be said about time blocking, where let's say you've got 2 people on a site, and that one person is just going to do turns. Like even if you got 2 people and there's a bunch of make readies to be done, sorry, how else you use to make readies. All those make readies, just let them do make readies and do not let them be interrupted. Interrupting a make ready is so expensive, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It kills your day. This episode is brought to you by Multifamily X. These are not just conversations we have on a podcast. We have these conversations with our clients on a regular basis. If your operations, maintenance, turns, vendors are taking more time out of your day than you wish, then we should have a conversation. We help companies like yours figuring out how to fix this. Just actionable items, execution, not another binder that nobody looks at. Now back to the episode.
Yeah.
And
I also think one thing that's interesting, and we all suffer from this. Let's say you're crushing out some make readies, and you listen to some music while you're doing the wall, and you ask someone to pick their phone up because they get a buzz. Like, you just killed 10 minutes out of that make ready. And it's not because, it's just like, you take that phone out of your pocket, 10 minutes is gone.
At least.
A minimum. And so, like, it should be notifications off. You've got this length of time to finish off that make ready. Deep clean it, paint it, drywall, whatever you got to do with it. Get that all done, and then back to work. Because it's just those interruptions that we reward. We reward interrupting the work.
Well, it's funny that you say we reward. I think about this. I word it a different way. When your property manager is the leading person in this disruption cycle,
mm-hmm.
right? He or she sets the tone for the entire team, the leasing team, and makes it not acceptable, but makes it like SOP to disrupt the maintenance workflow.
Yeah.
To call people over. We have notices to put out. We have, like you said, I've been rolling a wall right there, and then there's a toilet, that I gotta, go.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, it's not even stuff that can wait. Sometimes it goes like this. A resident calls and they're very upset. And in order for the manager or the leasing person to deflect that situation, they're saying, we'll send someone right away.
Yeah.
This could be like an issue that's not an emergency, but maybe it's been ongoing and hasn't been addressed for a while. But for them to make it easier for themselves, they just say, we're going to send someone right away.
Yeah.
And it's very okay. To them, it's very okay to gain their peace of mind back at the expense of the maintenance technician, the maintenance team.
The job's getting done.
Okay.
And I do think that that's an opportunity for technology. To take the temperature down in the room on intake and empathy and all those things, technology can do some stuff there, especially if it's a phone call, if it's a text message, or if it's right in the resident app. There's an opportunity there for technology to take the temperature down. Now, it feels like change, but it might help you get those units turned faster. It might help you get those work orders closed faster. Because Because what's funny about things, we reward a lot. We unintentionally reward a lot of bad behavior. Work orders is a great example, right? Like, how many duplicate work orders does it take to change a light bulb? You know what I mean? Like, like, light bulb needs to be changed. No one gets to it because it's low priority. Okay, work order again. Light bulb needs to be changed. Doesn't get done to it. Okay, we got to do it again. Another 3 work orders for the same light bulb needs to be changed. Now I've got 3 open work orders that are waiting on a part or just like waiting. Like, that's the punchline. And it happens.
This is some good stuff, man. Some really good stuff.
You can use that joke.
Yeah.
How many duplicate work orders does it take to change the light bulb? Not my original content.